Hello, mentors, and welcome to Cooperation. So this is meeting 2 of Math CEO, which will be on January 25th. The main difference between this meeting and the last meeting you guys had is that now both parts, part 1 and part 2, will be actually led by you, the mentors. So both will be in the tables, and the LAs, the learning assistants, they'll just run around or walk around the room and assist you in whatever you need, maybe have some small interventions and just help you out throughout. But now it's more your responsibility, so it's much more exciting this time. Let's look at the parts. So let's go to this page. So this meeting is about social systems that are modeled by games and how different strategies evolve in the long run. So here the underlying theme is going to be how individual decisions clash with versus collective consequences, and how our choices affect the systems or the other way around. So there's going to be two parts. The confidence game. Here, students will explore a two-player bluffing game that includes a dilemma or whether cooperating or cheating. They're going to explore playing strategies and scale this game, so make it bigger, make it larger, to a multiplayer tournament and see how players condition other players. We're going to be practicing the framework 2.1, make it come alive, and also pay attention to last week's 1.1. So the idea is that as we develop the framework, we don't just go component by component, but we also remember the component from last week. So last week we did 1.1, being warm and welcoming. We still can practice and reflect about how to be better on that. But now the main focus is make it come alive. This part is 45 minutes. And after the break, there's going to be a part called modeling, in which you will build on elements of part 1. Now students will actually pick a real-life situation involving cooperation or cheating and create a 2-player game or maybe 3-player game to model the situation. They'll analyze it with mathematics. Some time management tips. Look for ways to speed up the tournament in part 1, so it can be quite long. So you can maybe reduce the number of rounds, or maybe if there's too many players, split it into 2 tournaments, so do different things there. So plan around. You now have more or less a picture of your students and the number of students. That may change for meeting 2, but you can start planning with that. And then be aware of downtime moments where nothing happens. Okay, so let's talk about the mathematical goals real quick, representing outcomes of games, using very visuals, explaining how when you change parameters in similar games, this can affect possible strategies using probability in your explanations, understand different game strategies in simple games, and get new ones that determine how a player will play. Will play based on how the opponent plays. And finally, compare different player strategies in 2-player games or multiplayer tournaments, identifying who would win in the long run. So predicting, this is the most general, I guess, goal, which is very general, predicting in the long run, no matter if you play 1,000 rounds or a million rounds, etc. And we have some enrichment goals, or sustaining mindsets of collective benefit, appreciating other people's views, forgiving past experiences, and finally disrupt and design. So disrupt the current flow of a system in a general sense of this word, and come up with rule changes. Systemic, right? So it's not just saying that individuals should behave better. That's idealistic, but it rarely leads to just something concrete. But actually, okay, what can we change in the system so that starts changing behaviors of individuals? So it's a very nice debate between collective and individual. I guess that's the main spirit of this meeting, the collective versus the individual. So here's of course, the teaching manual. You can still keep reading all the things, but let's quickly look at the workbook. So in the workbook, your students will first, in part 1, they'll meet this confidence game, the game of confidence. They'll play some rounds. They'll predict some score in this part B. And then there's some reflection, quick reflection for that. Then moving to the tournament, still in part 1. Oh, sorry, before the tournament, some experiment. So team experiment. You have 2 teams, and then you try to agree on strategy, and you play to see what happens. So the two teams are inside your table, of course. And mentors can also play. Remember, it's not about mentors just watching, but mentors can somehow play and kind of have a horizontal view of this. They're at the same level. You're also learning as your students learn, and you learn from your students. And finally, the tournament for this part, you have some profiles here. For example, the copycat always cooperates in the first round, but then just copies the past play of the opponent. So it's just, if you do bad, he does bad. If you do good, he does good, but in the next round always. So it's kind of a delay. So you can read about all this. So you'll secretly click 1 and play the tournament. And then there's going to be a discussion. What would you do in a new tournament? Kind of a learning about the experiences. So here's the tournament, the recording. And then part 2, it's called My Own Game. So this is modeling part here. So we call it modeling for mentors, but for students, we just call it My Own Game. The students are going to team up, hopefully, and create a 2-player game that's similar to the confidence game, inspired by the ideas shared, and then respond to this question. For example, is it likely to get cooperation in the long run? Or what changes could you make to the rules? And then they're going to extend it to a 3-player game, or maybe add some luck element to it. We'll have dice in the meeting. This is all about the creativity of the students now, and like more free, right? More open to their own experiences, which we like to teach with culture in mind. So it's important not to just bring the mentors' experiences or likes. I mean, that's a good first step, but going beyond, okay, what do you like? And what are you motivated by? And then create some game. Of course, this is part 2 after the part 1, which was the game itself, so that here players understand the structural rules more on the math. They still have, they're starting having a discussion on confidence, right? And cooperation. And part 2 is more for them to shine. So it's 30 minutes long. Of course, they may run out of time a little bit, but that's okay. I mean, it's more an open-ended task, so to speak. So you can motivate it to keep doing this after the school ends, after the school meeting ends. So, maybe bring me for next week's some game, or play with your friends, etc. So that's pretty much in a nutshell the meeting. Let me say some words quickly about our framework. So remember, we have these 9 components. Last week, we focused on being warm and welcoming, which we practice in coaching, of course. And for the next week, so this coming week and the meeting, we'll practice how to make it come alive, how to have a mathematical task and make it alive, not for just me as a mentor, but for my students, how to, input what I know from my students in the past, or what I predict they know or they like from culture, interest, past experience. And how do I blend it into the math content and motivation of my math problems, activities, etc. So you can read all about this, but so it's making the task, having the mindset that you, the mentor, are a bridge between the students and the task. You're trying to, the students have some motivation. The mathematical task as itself has some mathematical goals on itself. You are a bridge. How my students respond to the task. So how can I change my students, and how can I also change the task for my students? Kind of like a back and forth, so that both benefit, both change, right? Both kind of rise to the occasion. Easy to say, but in practice, of course, there's lots of, interesting challenges that you will be meeting. It all starts with anticipating, and you guys will talk about it on orientation, and you guys do some fantastic activities, regarding that. So that's it for this meeting. Remember, we have coaching, makeup coaching on Tuesdays. Just check the calendar. We have a new room. You can practice even if you go to Monday coaching. So have a lot of fun, and see you in Slack for those that, can write to me, to Andres, on any questions regarding especially the mathematical activities. Okay, see you soon.